Thursday, 29th of October, 1942. Dear Kitty, I am awfully worried. Daddy is ill. He has a high temperature and a red rash. It looks like measles. Think of it, we can't even call a doctor. Mummy is letting him have a good sweat. Perhaps that will send his temperature down. This morning, Miep told us all that all the furniture has been removed from the Van Dan's home. We haven't told Miss Van Dan yet. She's such a bundle of nerves already, and we don't feel like listening to another moan over all the lovely china and beautiful chairs that she left at home. We had to leave almost all our nice things behind, so what's the good of grumbling about it now? I'm allowed to read more grown-up books lately. I'm now reading Eva's Youth by Nico van Scholten. I can't see much difference between this and the schoolgirl love stories. It is true, there are bits about women selling themselves to unknown men in back streets. They ask a packet of money for it. I'd die of shame if anything like that happened to me. Also, it says that Eva has a monthly period. Oh, I'm so longing to have it too. It seems so important. Daddy has brought the plays of Goethe and Schiller from the big cupboard. He is going to read to me every evening. We've started with Don Carlos. Following Daddy's good example, Mummy has pressed her prayer book into my hand. For decency's sake, I read some of the prayers in German. They are certainly beautiful, but they don't convey much to me. Why does she force me to be pious, just to oblige her? Tomorrow we are going to light the fire for the first time. I expect we shall be suffocated with smoke. The chimney hasn't been swept for ages. Let's hope the thing draws. Yours, Anne. Saturday, 7th of November, 1942. Dear Kitty, Mummy is frightfully irritable, and that always seems to herald unpleasantness for me. Is it just chance that Daddy and Mummy never rebuke Margot and that they always drop on me for everything? Yesterday evening, for instance, Margot was reading a book with lovely drawings in it. She got up and went upstairs, put the book down, ready to go on with it later. I wasn't doing anything, so picked up the book and started looking at the pictures. Margot came back, saw her book in my hands, wrinkled her forehead, and asked for the book back. Just because I wanted to look a little further on, Margot got more and more angry. Then Mummy joined. "Give the book to Margot. She was reading it," she said. Daddy came into the room. He didn't even know what it was all about, but saw the injured look on Margot's face and promptly dropped on me. "I'd like to see what you'd say if Margot ever started looking at one of your books." I gave way at once, laid the book down, and left the room, offended, as they thought. It so happened I was neither offended nor cross, just miserable. It wasn't right of Daddy to judge without knowing what the squabble was about. I would have given Margot the book myself, and much more quickly, if Mummy and Daddy hadn't interfered. They took Margot's part at once, as though she were the victim of some great injustice. It is obvious that Mummy would stick up for Margot. She and Margot always do back each other up. I'm so used to that I'm utterly indifferent to both Mummy's jawing and Margot's moods. I love them, but only because they are Mummy and Margot. With Daddy it's different. If he holds Margot up as an example, approves of what she does, praises and caresses her, then something gnaws at me inside, because I adore Daddy. He is the one I look up to. I don't love anyone in the world but him. He doesn't notice that he treats Margot differently from me. Now Margot is just the prettiest, sweetest, most beautiful girl in the world. But all the same, I feel I have some right to be taken seriously too. I have always been the dunce, the ne'er-do-well of the family. I've always had to pay double for my deeds, first with the scolding, and then again because of the way my feelings are hurt. Now I'm not satisfied with this apparent favoritism any more. I want something from Daddy that he is not able to give me. I'm not jealous of Margot, never have been. I don't envy her good looks or her beauty. It is only that I long for Daddy's real love. Not only as his child, but for me, Anne, myself. I cling to Daddy because it is only through him that I am able to retain the remnant of family feeling. Daddy doesn't understand that I need to give vent to my feelings over Mummy sometimes. He doesn't want to talk about it. He simply avoids anything which might lead to remarks about Mummy's failings. Just the same, Mummy and her failings are something I find harder to bear than anything else. I don't know how to keep it all to myself. I can't always be drawing attention to her untidiness, her sarcasm, and her lack of sweetness. Neither can I believe that I am always in the wrong. We are exact opposites in everything, so naturally we are bound to run up against each other. I don't pronounce judgment on Mummy's character, for that it is something I can't judge. I only look at her as a mother, and she just doesn't succeed in being that to me. I have to be my own mother. I've drawn myself apart from them all. I am my own skipper, and later on I shall see where I come to land. All this comes about particularly because I have in my mind's eye an image of what a perfect mother and wife should be, and in her, whom I must call mother, I find no trace of that image. I am always making resolutions not to notice Mummy's bad example. I want to see only the good side of her, and to seek in myself what I cannot find in her. But it doesn't work, and the worst of it is that neither Daddy nor Mummy understands this gap in my life, and I blame them for it. I wonder if anyone can ever succeed in making their children absolutely content. Sometimes I believe that God wants to try me, both now and later on. I must become good through my own efforts, without examples and without good advice. Then later on I shall be all the stronger. Who besides me will ever read these letters? From whom but myself shall I get comfort? As I need comforting often, I frequently feel weak and dissatisfied with myself. My shortcomings are too great. I know this, and every day I try to improve myself again and again. My treatment varies so much. One day Anne is so sensible and is allowed to know everything, and the next day I hear that Anne is just a silly little goat who doesn't know anything at all and imagines that she's learned a wonderful lot from books. I'm not a baby or a spoiled darling anymore, to be laughed at, whatever she does. I have my own views, plans, and ideas, though I can't put them into words yet. Oh, so many things bubble up inside of me as I lie in bed, having to put up with people I'm fed up with, who always misinterpret my intentions. That's why in the end, I always come back to my diary. That is where I start and finish, because Kitty is always patient. I'll promise her that I shall persevere in spite of everything, and find my own way through it all, and swallow my tears. I only wish I could see the results already, and occasionally receive an encouragement from someone who loves me. Don't condemn me. Remember rather that sometimes I too can reach the bursting point. Yours, Anne. Monday, 9th of November, 1942. Dear Kitty, yesterday was Peter's birthday. He was 16. He had some nice presents. Among other things, a game of Monopoly, a razor, and a lighter. Not that he smokes much. It's really just for show. The biggest surprise came from Mr. Van Den, when 1 o'clock he announced that the British had landed in Tunis, Algiers, Casablanca, and Oran. This is the beginning of the end, everyone was saying, but Churchill, the British Prime Minister, who had probably heard the same thing in England, said, "This is not the end. It is not even the beginning of the end." But it is, perhaps, the end of the beginning. Do you see the difference? There is certainly reason for optimism. Stalingrad, the Russian town which they've already been defending for 3 months, still hasn't fallen into German hands. But to return to affairs in our secret den, I must tell you something about our food supply. As you know, we have some real greedy pigs on the top floor. We get our bread from a nice baker, a friend a Capus. We don't get so much as we used to at home, naturally, but it's sufficient. 4 ration cards have also been bought illegally. Their price is going up all the time. It has now gone up from 27 florins to 33, and all that for a little slip of printed paper. In order to have something in the house that will keep, apart from our 150 tins of vegetables, we have bought 270 pounds of dried peas and beans. They are not all for us. Some are for the office people. They are in sacks which hang on hooks in our little passage, inside the hidden door. Owing to the weight of the contents, a few stitches in the sack burst open, so we decided it would be better to put our winter store in the attic, and Peter was given the job of dragging it all up there. He managed to get 5 of the 6 sacks upstairs intact, and he was just busy pulling up number 6 when the bottom seam of the sack split and a shower, no, a positive hailstorm of brown beans came pouring down and rattled down the stairs. There were about 50 pounds in the sack, and the noise was enough to waken the dead. Downstairs, they thought the old house with all its contents was coming down on them. Thank God there were no strangers in the house. It gave Peter a moment's fright, but he was soon roaring with laughter, especially when he saw me standing at the bottom of the stairs like a little island in the middle of sea beans. I was entirely surrounded up to my ankles in beans. Quickly we started to pick them up, but beans are so slippery and small that they seem to roll into all possible and impossible corners and holes. Now, every time anyone goes downstairs, they bend down once or twice in order to be able to present Mrs. Van Daan with a handful of beans. I had almost forgotten to mention that Daddy is quite better again. Yours, Anne. P.S. The news has just come over the radio that Algiers has fallen. Morocco, Casablanca, and Oran have been in British hands for several days. Now we're waiting for Tunis. Tuesday, the 10th of November, 1942. Dear Kitty, great news. We want to take in an 8th person. Yes, really. We've always thought there was quite enough room and food for one more. We were only afraid of giving Capuce and Creole more trouble. But now that the appalling stories we've heard about the Jews are getting even worse, Daddy got a hold of the 2 people who had to decide, and they thought it was an excellent plan. It is just as dangerous for 7 as for 8, they said, and quite rightly. When this was settled, we ran through our circle of friends trying to think of a single person who would fit in well with our family. It wasn't difficult to hit on someone. After Daddy had refused all members of the Van Daan family, we chose a dentist called Albert Dussel, whose wife was fortunate enough to be out of the country when the war broke out. He is known to be quiet, and so far as we and Mr. Van Daan can judge from a superficial acquaintance, both families think he is a congenial person. Miep knows him too, so she will be able to make arrangements for him to join us. If he comes, he will have to sleep in my room instead of Margaret, who will use the camp bed. Yours, Anne. Thursday, 12th of November, 1942. Dear Kitty, Dussel was awfully pleased when Miep told him that she had got a hiding place for him. She urged him to come as soon as possible, preferably Saturday. He thought that this was rather doubtful, since he had to bring his card index up to date first. See to a couple of patients and settle his accounts. Miep came to us with this news this morning. We thought it was unwise of him to put it off. All these preparations entail explanations to a number of people whom we would rather keep out of it. Miep is going to ask if he can't manage to come on Saturday after all. Dussel said no. Now he is coming on Monday. I must say, I think it's pretty crazy that he doesn't jump at the proposal, whatever it is. If he were to get picked up outside, would he still be able to do his card index, settle his finances, and see to his patients? Why delay then? I think it's stupid of Daddy to have given in. No other news. Yours, Anne.